All right, so we're gonna get into week two review and maybe a couple overreactions after 3 weeks of the season if you include week zero. But my first takeaway from week two, Spencer's not gonna be too happy about this, but is Oregon and the
No, I'll
Pac-12.
probably agree.
Oregon, they looked really good. They took care of business, and they went into Columbus as what were they closing? They were like two touchdown underdogs.
14 and a half. Yep.
Yeah. And they didn't have their best player. They had basically the entire weight of a conference on their backs. It was like if they lose this game, everybody's still laughing at the Pac 12. Cody's still shitting on the Pac 12 this week.
And I'm still laughing at the Pac-12. Let's be honest.
Fair. But you have less of an argument after the performance they put forth on in Columbus over the weekend. Um, I think my bigger takeaway was how bad Ohio State's defense is.
Yep.
I don't know
Yeah.
about you
So
guys.
Spencer, you were at the game. Why don't you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about like what that felt like? Probably like at the half or like going into the half. What was the crowd like? Like
So,
how did
well,
they react?
it's a little bit weird with Ohio State because what you see with Ohio State a lot of times is they'll do really poor the first half, and then you have all the fans hoping. Oh, there's my dog in the
Hey,
background.
Doug.
Yep. You have all the fans sitting there hoping, saying, "Hey, we're a second half team. We always do terrible in the first half. We're gonna look fine the second half." So I think a lot of people are still very optimistic at halftime that we were gonna make some changes and really take that game over. It just never happened. But
So
Nice.
go ahead, Cody.
still a really fun game to go to. I mean, everyone was excited. I mean, it's good to be back in the stadium, to be honest.
Yeah, that much I agree with. So the thing I gotta ask is that I saw going on Twitter the past couple of days is Ohio State fans complaining about the color of the turf. Did you notice that as well?
I
Everybody's
didn't
calling
notice
for
it. So I didn't notice it live, but when you look on the cameras, it does look pretty bad compared to a couple years ago.
yeah.
I mean,
So generally, and I looked into this a little bit. At Ohio State, they have a policy to replace the turf every 7 years.
mm,
Um, and
Has it been six
it
years?
was installed after the 2014 season, the most recent turf.
yep.
So obviously, it is going to have wear. It sits in the sun 365 days a year. Um, and it will be replaced, I believe, after this season in the off season. So
Fair enough.
like it
I'm
it needs to be replaced, but it's at the end of its working life. It's
yeah.
still there. I don't think that the turf played that big of a difference for Ohio State because frankly they get to
Oh no.
practice on it and
No, I was just
Oregon
curious.
doesn't. Well, but there was in those tweets there was a lot of people talking about how it made a difference to Ohio State, and it's like, well, hold
No.
on, doesn't Ohio State get to practice on there and Oregon doesn't? And Oregon played on the same turf, so like
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a horrible
I
argument.
personally think my analysis of the game is Oregon just came out with a better game plan. Like straight up, they got out coached. Because I
They
don't think
got
Oregon has better players than Ohio State.
no.
Ohio State has better players, frankly. They just got out coached. I don't think that Ohio. I think Ohio State's defense just was not ready for what Oregon kept running, and
Yeah.
then they never made adjustments. So I'm not sure, but I think that his name's Kerry Coombs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was talk this
I
week. I
think
know Ryan Day came out and said that he's going to make adjustments in the coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball, or make changes or something has
Well,
to
yeah, he
change.
also said he was gonna work with the defensive team by calling plays and stuff now, and he's real upset because usually he only handles the offense,
Yeah,
but I don't think he trusts his defensive guys anymore, which is not
through
very good.
through 2 weeks,
no.
there's no reason to believe in this defense right now. Like the past
No.
couple of years, and they got some studs on that defensive side. They got guys that are going to get drafted in the first round. So maybe it is just a coaching scheme thing. I don't know,
Well, and
but
I'm looking at the transitive property in college football, and I'm going to pull it up right now. But I believe that Miami outgained Minnesota in yards. So
Oh yeah,
let me look at this.
Miami of Ohio almost beat Minnesota this past weekend.
Yes. Yeah, so Miami of Ohio outgained Minnesota in yards 341 to 287. I mean, 287 total yards is not a lot for a home game against Miami of Ohio.
No.
And frankly, I mean, I don't know how many yards that Minnesota had against Ohio State. Let me actually pull
They
it
had
up
a
because I can't.
bunch of rushing yards.
Yeah, I would say though
Yeah,
it is kind of notable that Minnesota's missing their running back. Uh,
sure.
Ibrahim,
I mean, that's fair, but like, all right, yeah, against Minnesota they had 408 yards against Ohio State. Um,
Minnesota had
that's not
408 yards.
good for Minnesota. Their offense really probably isn't that good this year. Um,
Their running back is, but
so
yeah,
yeah, it doesn't look good for Ohio State.
no.
And that's not me being like an Ohio State hater. That's just me saying like I have a lot of questions about this team that I didn't have at the beginning of the year. I actually thought they were like going to cruise to a Big Ten championship at the beginning of the year, but I've gotten to watch them now, and I don't. I think they're going to be the Big Ten East champion or whatever, leaders or whatever they're in, but I can't say that definitively. Like there are teams that could beat them.
Penn State
I
is
think
going to be a big
Michigan
threat.
could
That's
beat them.
that was one of my takeaways. If we want to kind of start moving away from Ohio State, is an overreaction. This is my one of my overreaction. Michigan is a legitimate threat for the Big Ten title this year. That's an overreaction.
mm, yeah, I'd
They
call that
looked good.
That's a major overreaction.
one.
I'm a Michigan fan, and I think that's an overreaction. All right, so the offense looked okay against a really, really good Washington defense, but I mean,
Are we?
Washington's offense is bad,
Yeah.
like straight bad. And the defense, they didn't allow any points, but they kind of got pushed around.
Yeah.
It didn't look like a dominant victory against a team that they probably should have
Well,
dominated based off the recruits.
it was only like 10-0 at halftime, wasn't it? And then they kind of pulled
Yeah,
away in the second half, so maybe they kind of wore down the Washington defense. I didn't actually watch that
yeah,
game, so
yeah. I mean, for sure that happened, but I don't know. I think that's an overreaction at this point. I think that Michigan has a lot to figure out. I think their offense needs to get better, but honestly, their offense could play with Ohio State's defense. And that's what worries me, or I guess worries me for Ohio State.
I think
Not
right
worries.
now, if you're a Michigan fan, this is the ideal start to the season. You comfortably win your first two games. Nobody's really talking about you. Nobody's really paying attention. You got the chance to kind of
Yeah.
build some confidence, get the season rolling. So I don't know. Just watch out for Michigan. Just kidding, because they're probably
Wouldn't
going
it
to get
be funny?
beat by Michigan State or something.
Wouldn't it be funny if Michigan cruises and is undefeated going into that Ohio State game? Ohio State wins the rest of their games,
And
and
that's for a spot in the
then
Big
Ohio
Ten
State
championship.
beats
Man,
Michigan again.
you have playoff defining
Oh
game
God,
again.
I'm pretty sure they'd fire Harbaugh on the spot.
Well, they haven't fired him yet, so I don't know why they would do it now.
I don't know, man. It feels like they might.
Yeah.
They need a win. I really feel like they need a win against Ohio
Yeah.
State this year.
All right. The
Um,
last takeaway I have from this past weekend is how bad some of the top 10 teams looked. Texas A&M really struggled against Colorado. Colorado team that I don't think anybody expects to be any good whatsoever, but they really struggled. Probably should have lost that game. Notre Dame almost lost to Toledo. Like Toledo probably should have beat Notre Dame. UC looked like they struggled in the first half against Murray State. There was a lot of upsets brewing again this weekend.
so here's my defense of Texas A&M. They were playing in Denver, so that altitude makes a difference. In addition to that, like on the first play of the drive or of the game, Texas A&M's quarterback got hurt. So
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like a pre-game injury. It was like during the game they had to put in their backup, who is less capable. and you would have a different game plan with the backup. So I think that like means it has to show for something. I think there was no preparation for it to have him in unless they were winning by a lot. So like it took a while to get the offense going, and the offense reverted. I think that they will be improved this week against. I think they play like New Mexico State or something.
It's just regular New
Um,
Mexico.
okay, New Mexico. They'll win that, and then
So
they have Arkansas after that, and I think that they'll. Honestly, with the starting quarterback out, like yeah, I don't know who I'm picking for that game now because Arkansas looked pretty good, looked
yeah.
damn good against Texas.
So
So that's what Texas A&M.
my counter argument to that is Texas A&M right now is they're trying to make the playoffs. They're on that door. They're trying to get to that level of Clemson and Ohio State and Alabama. And I think it's still Colorado. And if you want to be on that level of Alabama, it doesn't matter if it's your backup quarterback, your third string quarterback, your backup like you should still take care of business in that situation. And I definitely came away from that looking at Texas A&M in a drastically different way. Like I think I picked them to make the playoff coming into the season, and if I could go back and change that right now, I definitely would because they scare me and I don't trust them at all.
I don't disagree with you. Through a few games, they just have not looked that great. And like, I guess I'm not trying to like say that they aren't. I'm not trying to say they're bad. I don't think they're bad. I don't think they're great right now. I think they could be a lot better than they are. They have the pieces to be a lot better than they are, and I think that they're just still figuring it out.
Okay,
And I
fair
think
enough.
they could get a lot better.
They better quickly because they got a couple
Again,
after this week.
they have one game, and then they got to figure it out.
Then they get in the SEC, and it's not going to be any week in the SEC is not going to be easy. So except if they play
Yeah. So
Vanderbilt some week.
so you touched on the Notre Dame versus Toledo game. I did not get a chance to watch this game. I was actually at the Cincinnati versus Murray State game. But I did. I was keeping up with the scores, and yeah, the Notre Dame doesn't look very good. I think
It makes me
Toledo is
excited
by
as a
far the
Purdue
best
fan.
team. Yeah, if you're a Purdue fan, you're feeling okay moving into this. I mean, obviously they had the what it takes to come back and win against Toledo, but it just didn't look great. Um,
Their defense is
and
shocking.
I mean, Toledo should have won that game too. I mean, when he broke that run, if you go down at the 5 yard line, I mean, I don't know why they did
Clock
not give
runs.
Notre
Yeah,
Dame the ball back.
yeah. It's the same
yeah,
I mean,
situation with
it's a
the
you're Toledo against the top. You're against the eighth best team. You're gonna trust your defense to stop their offense?
no.
No
It was
way.
a stupid play call by a stupid university that is stupid.
that team up north. Anyways, uh, so I don't have a whole lot to say about that, but like Notre Dame just should be better.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make me feel good about
They're one of the
moving
teams.
forward.
I was wrong on Texas A&M because I had a pick for the playoffs, but I did not believe in this Notre Dame team coming into the season, and I've been proven right so far because they struggled against Florida State, should have lost to Florida State, and then they struggled against Toledo, and they should have lost to Toledo. So
Yeah, well, I'm just hoping they stay undefeated until they play Cincinnati and then
nope,
win the rest of their games.
they're going down to
Um,
Purdue.
anyways, the Cincinnati game versus Murray State, they went into halftime tied 7-7. The defense looked good in the first half. It looked good in the way that like the playmakers were making plays. There were two turnovers, but it was still a rough showing. The offense looked quite bad. Um, and Murray State dictated the entire first half. They controlled the time of possession. They did everything that they needed to do to just like wear down the clock. And I think that's what Murray State was trying to do is just like make this clock go fast. Maybe we'll get a chance to win, you know?
Yeah,
And uh, coming out, like Cincinnati scored on their opening drive in the second half, and then scored just like on pretty much every possession after that. They did end up covering that 35-point spread, so good for them. But the first
It's like
half
they
did not
woke
look
up in the
good.
second
And
half.
yeah, no, they really did. I watched some different interviews and things like that. And apparently, like Luke Fickle barely said anything during halftime. Apparently, it was like Desmond Ritter just like yelling at the team, like, "What are you doing?" Um, so I mean, that kind of speaks a lot to like the team's leadership, and like it speaks to the team like coming together and realizing, oh, we had a really bad first half.
Yeah.
We kind of sleptwalked through that. And I think it also partially, maybe they don't want to give away too much for this Indiana game coming up and then the Notre Dame game as well. Don't want to put too much on footage, but it didn't look great in the first half. I was scratching my head drinking my beer in the first half.
I agree.
Which, by the
I
way, you want to hear about the tickets I got to this UC game?
Go ahead.
So, we were 10 rows back on the 50-yard line on the home side in the shade for $6 a ticket.
That's amazing.
It's not bad.
Bought them 5 minutes before the game started, and
Well, that's why they were so cheap. They were
I
just trying
got
to
them
get
on
rid
the
of them.
game time app. I am not paid or sponsored by the Game Time app, but it is a great application for acquiring tickets last minute. Because they were the greatest tickets I've ever had in that stadium for the cheapest I've ever paid.
Fair
So
enough.
that was pretty cool. Because those are like $80 tickets. Like if you
Especially
get
getting in
them.
the shade. That's nice getting in the shade.
Oh, it was real nice. It was real nice.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right.
and I have one more game that I wanna speak on,
Okay.
and that is BYU versus Utah.
I completely forgot the game of the weekend. Everybody's
The game
favorites
of
to
the
go
weekend.
undefeated, the Utah Utes. Everybody had them
Yeah,
undefeated coming into the
those
season.
Pac-12 champion Utes. How they looking? Not very good.
It's the first time I didn't realize that the rivalry, the holy war as they call it, has was so one sided for so long. BYU hadn't won since like 2009 or something like that.
Yeah, Kalani Sitake hadn't won as a coach.
Yeah. So
I
what
actually
that
think that
means is
this
we were
BYU
right.
team might have under Kalani Sitake. Like they might be there at
Like,
the best that they've been.
oh yeah, definitely. Well, last year, I believe last year they are better than what they will end up being this year, but he still got the program in a great place.
I agree. Going into the Big 12.
And we can all agree that Utah sucks at football.